Welcome to Rainy Day Rabbit Holes,
a uniquely Pacific Northwest podcast.
I'm Shay.
I'm Jason.
And each week, we take you on a journey through the weird, wacky, and wonderful stories of Pacific Northwest history.
So grab your North Face jacket, strap on your Tevas, pour yourself a nice cup of Northwest coffee, and
let's fall down. Let's fall down the
Because you wind up for the let's.
I do.
You wind up for the let's. You're like, let's fall down the rabbit hole.
Okay. All right.
Here we go.
Let's fall down
the rabbit hole.
Oh,
why did you stop? We were so close. Shay, jeez. That wasn't me this time. That was all you.
God damn it, everybody. Let's just fall down the rabbit hole. You might have noticed that Jody's voice has gotten really deep and sexy. And that's a little bit weird for me to say because it's not Jody, it's my brother Jason.
Whoa, brother. Let's just, let's take it easy on that. Let's just say we know some of the same people, and that just happens to be your parents and my parents.
Jason, you want to get really weird? We came out of the same vagina.
Oh, nope. All right, I'm out. I gotta go. Yikes on bikes.
Things just got weird in here. Well, hi, my friends. So Jody's having a little break this week, and so I brought in my pitch hitter, and that is my big brother, Jason. You guys have heard me talk about Jason. We went to Japan together, and he's like, okay, I guess. So, yeah.
Did you go to Japan?
Did you not hear about that? Did I not tell you about going to Japan? Oh my gosh. Can I talk about it?
I went to Japan with you and you still tell me about it. So.
All right. Well, Jason is here to listen to some bullshit or something that I'm going to tell him.
Definitely ready. And for everybody out there, I honestly have no idea what Shay is going to talk to me about, except for probably Japan.
Well, then should I do it in the dollop style? 1946!
Whoa. All right.
Jason, let's step back in time. The year is 1946, as we've already established, and you and I are going to hit the town. We're joining our friends at the hottest restaurant in Tacoma. Grab your hat. I'm going to grab my fur cape. Let's get the Ford gassed up, and we're going to head down to the waterfront. Tonight, we are dining at Top of the Ocean, a marvelous restaurant where we can enjoy Rat Pack style entertainment and mingle with the most fashionable ladies and gents of Tacoma. Oh, and don't leave your checkbook at home because you're going to have to pay. Because remember, at this time, women couldn't have bank accounts without a man.
Oh, that's right. Wow.
You give us money and power, and then just the world goes to shit. So...
Out of control.
Out of control. So as we cruise down Ruston, we see a beautiful ocean liner come into view. But wait, that's not a ship. That's a restaurant. It's the boat that doesn't float. The creation of Alan Rowell and Bert Sundgren. Bert, we need to bring back Bert. Do you know those names?
No, and having lived in Tacoma, I'm kind of surprised that I don't.
Yeah.
Fun.
These two adventurous developers imagined a vibrant, bustling shoreline where there were once sawmills and boatyards. They hired all of the best local boat builders and shipwrights to build a beautiful ocean liner on pilings right at the water's edge. It had a main deck with a 700-seat capacity, a hardwood dance floor, a stage, and an orchestra area. The upper deck was a private club with a bar, gaming tables, and slot machines. There was a floating dock that could accommodate 20 visiting yachts. And get this.
What?
On Sundays, Jason, there was even a seaplane taxi service.
Oh, you got to be kidding me. No, you're blowing my mind with this in general, just because, so where did they expect all the sawmills to go is my first question.
Well, the sawmills had shut down at this point. The crowd here was the best of the best, the upper crust of post-war Tacoma society, the movers and the shakers, if you will, and martinis and cash flowed like water. I'm sure the air was practically blue with the cigarette smoke.
Lovely.
Did you hear that there is one of these weird alt-right guys that's trying to bring back smoking as a health aid?
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
I can't remember his name, but also he wants to encourage children to smoke and thinks that we should abolish child labor laws.
He sounds like a joy. I'm glad he's not my dad. That's fantastic.
But I mean,
like, what are they going to do? Like, seriously, we can't get adults to work. Like, you know?
And I'm sure if you're abolishing those child labor laws, you're probably not going to give them smoke breaks.
Yeah, exactly. How are those kids going to smoke if you can't even give them smoke breaks? It's ridiculous. Kids these days with their vapes.
I know, wanting like a smoke break, that 9-year-old. Good grief. Yeah. So the swanky Tacoma Athletic Club headquarters were located on the upper deck as well. And in
Wait, on the boat itself?
Yes. I'm imagining, I couldn't find much about it, but I'm imagining the Tacoma Athletic Club was more of like, I mean, maybe like Equinox level. And it's more about men getting together to like maybe play. What would have like been the swanky upper class sport to play at that time?
I don't
tennis?
know. Are they playing like, yeah, tennis probably.
Tennis. They probably got
Shuffleboard?
together. Some golf maybe. And then like
golf.
Smoked cigars and drank bourbon. That's a sport.
I'm thinking shuffleboard and bourbon.
Shuffleboard and bourbon, yeah. Sounds about right. Yeah. And
like Alton Brown says, why bourbon? Because it's bourbon. So, yeah, I can't see that being like, I don't know what you're doing on the top of a deck. I don't know if you're like, playing football.
They didn't have a sports club up there. It was just their headquarters for like their office and for hanging out. So that upper deck it was the private club with a bar and gaming tables.
So they weren't doing any actual sporting up there. They were just talking about sporting.
I mean, unless you consider slot machines a sport.
Had slot machines in the 40s. So.
I don't know. I feel like we wandered through some buildings with slot machines in them in Japan. Was that what those loud?
No, that's pachinko.
Oh, that's not slot machines.
Yeah. No, it's kind of the Japanese version of slot machines, but way louder. You think slot machines are loud for anybody out there?
No, I'm talking about slot machines.
Slot machines.
Slot machines.
Strangely enough, this is something you didn't ruin, Shay. Like, you actually added to it. They had slot machines in the 40s.
They did. So in 1948, the Tacoma Athletic Club actually bought the building and also 6 surrounding lots for parking. And then
what the floating?
The top of the ocean isn't actually floating; it's on pilings. So it's a building out over the water on pilings. It's just shaped like an ocean liner.
Water.
Yeah,
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So Tacoma Athletic Club.
This building's over the water, and we would like to have it. It doesn't seem precarious at all. No.
So they reserved that upper deck as a private club for their members, and then they let the general public use the main deck restaurant area. So the members of the Tacoma Athletic Club were the go-getters of the city. So we've got politicians and developers and everybody who's the movers and shakers. At the top of the ocean, which is also known as the Top, Tacoma Athletic Club hosted grand sports banquets, fashion shows, and elaborate awards ceremonies.
This is all on Ruston Way in Tacoma. Wow. Okay.
So there was a darker side to this glamorous and romantic club.
All right, sweet. This is where Shay ruins something. This is fantastic. Here we go.
I'm actually not going to ruin anything except for maybe your trust in our political leaders. But did you have any to begin with?
At this point, not
right?
Really. Wow. Okay. Fantastic. But I look forward to you ruining something for me, Shay. The 1800s are just totally screwed, thanks to you.
Not thanks to me. They did it themselves. Organized crime was entrenched in Tacoma and supported by members of the city government. And the swank top of the ocean wasn't immune to the gritty underworld. The Italian mob had carved out a nice bootlegging and liquor smuggling business in Prohibition era Tacoma in the 1920s. And by 1932, racketeers just basically ran the city. There were at least 36 brothels within an 11-block radius of City Hall.
Whoa. Wait a minute.
Now,
36.
This is what I read
blocks.
on a historian's blog, so, you know.
I mean, that's over 3 a block. That's a lot of choice in your brothels.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot of people working.
You could get laid on any block.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's...
And every joint paid monthly protection fees. City leaders' palms were regularly greased by mobsters to turn a blind eye to the illegal gambling, prostitution, and liquor. Federal liquor agents were on the take as well. Police Commissioner Dyer Diamond got regular payments, along with Police Chief Marvin Guy. Even Mayor Melvin Tennant got around $1,000 a month in hush money, which in 1932, that's a nice little padding of your income.
That's not too shabby at all. I mean, somebody wanted me to pay $1,000 a month for me to be quiet. I definitely would not say a word.
Yeah.
Your listeners might want me to be quiet after this podcast anyway.
They already want me to shut up anyway. I lost a Spotify follower this week.
Oh, no.
Somebody was like, oh, that uppity bitch. I got to turn her off. All right.
Ooh.
The king of Tacoma's gritty underground was a handsome, smiling car dealer named Vito Cotone. I did the hand movement. With Diamond, Guy, and Tennant on his payroll, he controlled What?
And the accent, too. Thank you for that.
Oh, I'm going to pull out my bad, weird Italian restaurant accent here. Vito Cotone.
That was pretty good.
He had these police commissioners, police chief, and the mayor on his payroll. So he controlled department assignments, ensuring free reign for the speakeasies and brothels under his protection. A treasury investigation led to indictments of Cotone and other city leaders in 1933, but it went nowhere. Cotone remained free to rule Tacoma's underworld, and he turned his eye to gambling after Prohibition ended. Now,
can't make the money off the booze, turn into gambling.
Yeah. Now, I had a hard time actually connecting Cotone to Top of the Ocean. So this is just my headcanon at this point. Right. I have a suspicion that there's some sort of connection because he ended up being referred to as the pinball queen.
Well, that would be a change.
That would be different. He was the pinball queen. Let's go with that. He was referred to as the pinball king. And there were those slot machines and gaming tables.
Whoa!
On the top deck of Top of the Ocean.
You're still blowing my mind. They've got pinball and the splot machines at the same time.
He's the pinball queen
crazy.
And splot machines. He's really into that stuff.
All right. Well, that's crazy.
Okay, so look. If he was still alive, then he would be collecting money from Dorky's Arcade.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
At the end of May in 1951, Tacoma Vice Squad and liquor control officers raided the Swank nightclub that was full of posh diners and guests. The commissioner at the time, James T. Kerr, was charging the Tacoma Athletic Club with liquor violations and illegal gambling. The matter was settled 2 weeks later. Tacoma Athletic Club paid a $100 fine, and Kerr kept the slot machines. I don't know what he did with them.
Scam,
dude. Yeah,
from people that are getting $1,000 a month
right.
in hush money, the $100 fine. That sounds like stuff that happens now. It's
yeah.
Like, oh.
So later that year, Tacoma sold the restaurant to Roger W. Peck, and then it changed hands several more times. But the story is far from over, which we will get to after this quick break. Because I want to take a moment to thank all of our new listeners. We now have listeners in dozens of countries, with our largest groups of supporters outside of the United States in Ireland, the United Kingdom, and Canada. Ireland makes up 17% of our listeners at this point. It's pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
So-
Yay, Ireland.
Yay! And please share the show with your friends and family. It really makes my day when I wake up to new listeners. And I also want to thank my friend Newells, who hosts the amazing true crime podcast, Ireland Crimes and Mysteries. It was because of her kind words of support that we were able to break into Ireland and connect with all of the amazing Irish and British listeners. So we owe her so much gratitude. So please take a moment to check out Ireland Crimes and Mysteries. Follow her on Spotify or wherever you get podcasts. And you can also buy a t-shirt to support her. So you can go over to TeePublic and search for Ireland Crimes and Mysteries. I've ordered mine. I can't wait to wear it. I'll make sure I post a picture once I get it. And that reminds me, we have our own shop and it should be up and ready to go in the next couple of weeks. All right, back to the episode. Okay, so let's fast forward to the 1970s. Jason was just a little wee lad, probably really into, what would you have been into at that time? That was before Star Wars, so was it the Black Hole? I wasn't even a twinkle in my mother's
Black
eye.
Hole was Disney's response to the Star Wars movie.
Okay.
So it came out in 79 and was kind of universally panned.
Okay.
Even though it had Ernest Borgnine in it, by the way. So I don't know if that's a reason why it was panned or not, but there you go.
I don't know who that is, so. Well, speaking of 1977, by 1977, Dave Lavage. No, let's go with Lavage.
French for the badge.
Let's go with Lavage instead of Lavage.
Yeah, let's he'd probably be all right with that too. So it's Lavage, not Lavage. What are you talking about?
So Dave Lavage had no job. Sorry.
Off to a good start right there. Was he a child? Was he smoking? I don't know. What's happening here?
He had no job, a criminal record, a serious drinking problem, and not much in the way of friends.
Imagine that.
Sounds like a catch. On Saturday, April 2nd, 1977, Lavage was drinking in the bar at Top of the Ocean. He showed up already drunk and had to be asked to leave multiple times. Like, they ejected him from the bar and then he would come back in. He finally staggered out after midnight and left in a cab to take him back to his home on South M Street. Just a few hours later, early Sunday morning, he called a cab to take him back to the top. When the cab arrived, Lavage had several boxes that he asked the cabbie to help him load into the trunk.
Is it pinball machines or splot? Is it pinball machines splot machines?
Slot machines. Just wait. So the cabbie, Richard Black, later noted that the boxes kind of sloshed when he moved them, making him suspect there was some sort of liquid in them. Lavage apparently told the cabbie that he was a chemistry buff and that the boxes contained test tubes of chemicals. However, he later changed his story and claimed to be a dishwasher at the restaurant. So on the way back to the restaurant, for some reason, Lavage had the cab stop at 6 taverns so that he could look for his former wife. I don't know why. That's just something that was interesting to me. Yep.
6 taverns.
Yeah, and he also
And this is
stopped
somebody
at
he
a
wasn't
liquor
with
store.
currently.
Right. It's his ex-wife.
Oh, well, of course. I mean, you have to.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to go to 6 taverns that have liquor, to have the energy to get through all 6,
You gotta go to the
somewhere
liquor
in there,
store
you
too,
got to
yeah.
make a liquor store stop.
Right.
I mean, come on. This is common sense, Shay.
So the cabbie took him back to the restaurant and helped him unload the boxes into a storage room that's kind of right on the outside of the restaurant. Then around 6:30 a.m., 2 schoolboys were fishing off of Charlie's Fish Dock Pier. They heard a loud boom and saw a huge plume of smoke. They flagged down a passing car, and then the driver called the fire department. I don't know how, because it's the 1977. There's probably
Went into the liquor store.
Yeah, there you go. At 6:55 a.m., the Tacoma Fire Department rushed down to the Old Town waterfront in response to a fire at the Top of the Ocean restaurant. It was
Wait. What time?
6:55.
So he's been going to liquor stores and taverns since like the night?
Yeah. Yeah, because
Wow.
he left top of the ocean a little bit after midnight, and then I think he called the cab at like 5 a.m. or something. So
Okay.
I'm not
this
sure.
This is in the 70s.
Yeah, were the taverns still open at like 3 a.m. or whenever? I don't remember. I didn't see a time that he actually called the cab, but obviously it was before 6:30. So the restaurant was completely ablaze in flames. It took 61 firefighters and 12 major pieces of equipment, including a fireboat, over 2 hours to get the blaze under control. Several firefighters had to be sent to the hospital. The building was a complete loss. The damage was initially estimated to be around $500,000, but upon later investigation, it was determined that it was a total loss and would probably take more than $1 million to rebuild. It was originally built at a cost of around $100,000.
That's crazy inflation.
Yeah. So it was immediately obvious that this was an act of arson. Left behind at the scene, get this, were 8 empty cans of paint thinner with the arsonist's fingerprints all over them.
And they didn't burn. That's wild. You could still get fingerprints off them.
Well, if he had just
That's
left
a bad
them,
arson right there.
If he had left them in the parking lot, remember the restaurant itself is on pilings over the water. So if he had dropped them in the parking lot, then they're not attached to, like that's an area not attached, directly attached to the building.
Well, no wonder he didn't have any job. He wasn't even a good arsonist.
Right.
It's crazy. Or he was really drunk from the 6 taverns and liquor store.
Right. It could be that. So cabbie Richard Black soon heard about the fire, and he contacted arson investigators about the man he took to the top early Sunday morning and all about those sloshing boxes. On Monday, April 4th, so just one day later, investigators had their man. David Willard Lavage, who was
Lavage.
who was only 27 at the time, was immediately
So this is the
arrested.
reason why he ended up being a drunk without a job, is everybody kept saying Lavage.
Lavage.
I mean, all he had to do was change his name and, ooh, world's your oyster.
Right? Restaurant employees identified him as the man who had been repeatedly ejected from the bar, and the cabbie picked him out of a lineup as his Sunday morning fare. Investigators also found...
How tough was that lineup? I mean, come on. It's like, all the people that you carried around from like midnight to 6.
Right.
6 different tavern stops with a liquor store mixed in there for good measure.
Right.
And a bunch of sloshing shit.
Yeah. That guy. The guy with the shaggy hair and the mustache.
Oh, yep. That dude right there. I think his name's Lavage.
He got really pissed off when I called him Lavage for some reason.
Gee, for some weird reason.
So investigators also found the hardware store where Lavage had purchased 8 gallons of paint thinner. He was charged with first-degree arson and somehow found someone to help him pay his $10,000 bail, but then later on they increased it to $50,000, and no one helped him pay that.
No one took him up on that one.
No.
So no chief of police was
Exactly.
like, sure, whatever.
Right.
It's $100 fine, no big deal.
So Lavage's trial began on Monday, June 6th, 1977. So think about how slowly trials begin nowadays. This was from April 4th to June 6th. They got him to trial. And it lasted only 4 days. So when Lavage was on the stand, he seemed to have a hard time remembering the details of the night. Had claimed that the paint thinner had been purchased to refinish some furniture.
Or he was going to drink it, one of the two.
Right. His story to account...
Yeah, 6 taverns and a liquor store. I'd probably have a hard time remembering what I did, too.
Exactly. 4
But that
beers and
being
I
said,
don't remember where I went, so...
I know. What did I buy all this paint thinner for? I have no clue. I'm just going to leave it here. No big deal. And these oily rags and a lighter.
Whoopsie. I'm going to smoke this cigarette and then just flick it over here.
Hey, you know what? Kids could be smoking those cigarettes. You
I
can't
know.
let them go to waste.
It could have been a 9-year-old. I mean, his story to account for his repeated presence at the top of the ocean was that he was originally there to see about getting a job and that nobody would give him the time of day. I'm like, I wonder why you're drunk. Then he spent the next...
Well, time of day, he came in at midnight, so, and he repeatedly got kicked out of the place,
Right.
The place that you get in a bar brawls at, most likely not going to hire you.
Right.
That's a pro tip.
Right. Then he spent the rest of the night drinking at the restaurant, and this is his story. He left a stereo in the furnace room of the restaurant that he intended to sell later.
For booze.
Right. Then
or paint thinner.
He took a cab back to the restaurant to sell the stereo to a mystery man. He denied bringing paint thinner along. When the prosecution cross-examined him, he claimed that a recent skull fracture was causing loss of memory.
For falling down after being too drunk.
Probably. Eventually, he testified that he wanted to get even with the people at the restaurant for being treated discourteously. After deliberating for just over an hour, they found him guilty, and he was sentenced to a max of 20 years in the Washington State Correctional Center at Shelton. While this may seem like it's just a simple case of a disgruntled drunk deciding to take vengeance on a bar that refused to serve him, the story is much more complicated and has its roots deep in the underbelly of Grit City. All right, are your pants on? Because this is where it gets good. Unknown to the public at that time, the FBI and the BATF, which I'm assuming is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, BATF, were in the middle of a massive investigation of a criminal ring in Pierce County that included topless dancers, arson, insurance fraud, racketeering, prostitution, extortion, protection, and illegal gambling. All the good stuff.
Pinball machines and splat machines.
Splat machines. The investigation was prompted by a string of arsons in Pierce County in the early to mid 1970s. The gang suspected of these crimes was referred to as the Enterprise and was led by...
Enterprise. Like the Starship Enterprise, right?
I thought that was the Starship Entrepreneur.
Well, depends on how you listen to.
And it was led by Tacoma mobster John Carbone and his son Joey. Over the course of 6 years, there were 10 or more fires at taverns and homes, as well as the Family Amusement Center and several other businesses in the Tacoma area, with over $2 million in losses. Several of the taverns were either owned or operated by local mobsters, including Carbone. The owners of the businesses and homes collected insurance, paid off mortgages and debts, and rebuilt or opened new businesses. Even Carbone's own home was torched.
And they don't think it was like a rival mob or anything like that. They think it was him just
they
collecting the insurance money.
He did it in an attempt to paint himself as a victim and also to collect the insurance money.
Well, maybe that's what all the paint thinner was for.
Maybe his wife just wanted to remodel and he was like, fine, and just tossed a match.
Yeah, let me show you the easy way to do it. That's how we do it back in New York.
Right. In the later half of the 1970s, several discos and topless bars were firebombed in an attempt to drive out competition, as the Enterprise looked to control the topless tavern and nightlife industry in Pierce County.
Now, what about the topless discos? That's really what I want to hear about.
I'm sure that too, yes. Anywhere there's boobs and dancing.
Boobs, booze, and dancing. I love it.
This gang used violence to extort money and intimidate people. Human life meant nothing to these gangsters, and anyone, including private citizens, would be punished or killed if they stood in their way. Like, this was a serious mob operation.
Wow.
Okay. I'd never heard of this before. This is nuts to me.
Yeah, that's crazy. I haven't either.
So let's get a little deeper into this gang. Within the Enterprise, John...
You going undercover?
We're going undercover. All right.
Pepper, you're going undercover.
You need a polyester suit.
Oh, all right.
Your jacket, your shirt has to have very large lapels. Remember,
I was going to say, lapels. You can park a very large Cadillac underneath.
Exactly.
So, fantastic. And bell bottoms that I can hide paint cans up.
Exactly.
So
paint thinner.
Paint thinner. Yep.
Within the Enterprise, John Carbone was the leader. His right-hand man was Ronald Williams, who acted as chief lieutenant. Frank Mazuka and John's son Joey were also lieutenants and operated various clubs and taverns controlled by the group. Richard...
Dude, so Frank Mazuka, like, how do you not know that guy's, like, not a mobster right away? Come on.
Yeah.
Like, Mazuka. Yo, Mazuka. there's my racist voice for you today. So sorry, everyone.
Richard Calgary was Carbone's chief enforcer and provided security. My favorite name of all of them.
Nice plate of Carbone right now.
Is that where they put the raw egg in it and it like the egg yolk and it kind of like mixes? Is that pasta carbone?
Pasta carbone. Pasta carbone.
Okay, here's my favorite name.
All right, let's hear it.
Lamonti.
Lamonti. Wait, way better than Lavage.
Lavage. So Lamonti Zemek.
That's French for the Monty. So.
And Robert Valentine were middlemen who hired gangsters to carry out murder, extortion, assault, and arson. Anthony Mladnich and William Pettit managed and provided security for illegal businesses such as gambling dens. Jackie Bentley and Michael Johnson specialized in strong arm tactics, killing, and the occasional firebombing.
Jeez.
But Leroy Lusk...
There's a but?
There's a but.
Okay, all right.
Here's a connection. Leroy Lusk, Harry Wilcox, and here's our big reveal, David Lavage were the gang's main arsonists.
Oh, jeez. All right.
So you might be asking, why was Top of the Ocean firebombed? Well, the popular restaurant and nightclub was simply competing with the gang-controlled businesses in this area. So the Enterprise hired Lavage to torch the business, and then they were paying him hush money while he was in prison.
Oh, no way. Okay, well, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. Carl A. Fisk, a liquor control board agent, had his house firebombed in 1977. Then in November of 77, the Enterprise engaged Bentley and Johnson to kill State Liquor Control Board agent Melvin Journey.
So that dangerous to be a liquor control board dude?
Yep.
Wild.
Journey vigorously enforced the state liquor's laws and was a threat to the business of the Enterprise. Journey was ambushed in his car outside of his home and shot 4 times, but he survived. Which is crazy.
Hey, wow, that's wild.
Then, in February of 1978, Carbone had Jerome Weinstein, owner of the Prudential Mortgage Company, attacked and beaten. The group had firebombed his home just months earlier. Carbone mistakenly thought that Weinstein had been snitching to the IRS and tried to extort protection money out of the man. But at this point, the FBI knew about what was going on, and they actually gave Weinstein the payoff money to give to Carbone. And then later in 1978, the Night Moves Tavern, a popular topless club, was firebombed twice. In addition, some of the dancers had been routinely threatened. The owners, Robert and Patricia Chase, were being followed home after closing time. Then, in August, Calgary broke into the Chase's home in Kent, tied up their children, which was 2 little boys and a teenage girl, as well as the housekeeper. He threatened to cut off their hands with the butcher knife he brought with them. He told the housekeeper that if the Chases, who were not home that evening, did not seize the operation of their club, he would return and kill them all.
Wow. So this has nothing to do with the Night Move song by Bob Singer and the Silver Bullet Band, right?
I don't know. Can you sing me a little bit of it?
Working on my night moves.
Working on my night moves.
Yeah. Here we go. Working on mysteries without any clues. So trying to make some front page drive-in news. Well, this is obviously making front page drive-in news. Goodness gracious. Like literally, and they drove all the way up to Kent to kidnap these people.
I know.
That's for people who don't know the Northwest, that is a long way away from Tacoma. That is a solid drive.
Well, especially at that time because there were just a little bit less in major freeways.
Yeah, but still, that's still a drive. Like, I wouldn't drive up there to
40 minutes.
to kidnap people. And
You're like,
threaten
I
them.
will only threaten people if they are within a 20-minute drive. What do you think? I am a monster?
Yeah, exactly. Man, I got stuff to do. So I got at least 6 taverns to visit tonight, a hardware store and a liquor store. But like, how am I going to fit this kidnapping in?
Well, and if you ask me to do it after 8 p.m., I'm like, I'm just not leaving the house after 8 p.m. I only do murder threats and extortion before 8 p.m. I'll get up early to do it though. So if you want me to do it at like 7 a.m., that's fine. So
wow, and they had to bring his own butcher knife. Man, that's
he did. He brought his own butcher knife.
I hope he got paid the mileage or overtime on that.
Exactly. So. He's got a log. So these were just a few cases of attempted murder, assault, arson, and threats perpetrated by the Enterprise. And wouldn't you know it, the Pierce County Sheriff's Department just couldn't solve the crimes. You want to guess why?
Because somebody's got a bunch of slot machines and pinball machines in their garage.
Exactly. Well, it turns out that Pierce County Sheriff George V. Janovich was intimately involved with the Enterprise.
Whoa. What do you mean by intimately?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if
that has some connotations there.
Well, I mean, there was prostitution happening under his purview.
So he also was working on his night moves.
He could
okay,
be, yeah.
Gotcha.
Sheriff Janovich protected the Enterprise by giving them advance notice of BATF raids, disclosing information, discouraging law enforcement investigations, using deputies to harass competing businesses, and turning a blind eye to prostitution, illegal gambling, and other illegal shenanigans that the Enterprise was up to. As part of the joint investigation by the FBI and BATF, he accepted $1,300 bribe from an undercover agent posing as a tavern buyer to provide protection for illegal gambling and prostitution operations. Oh, and he also accepted 1 frozen turkey from Ronald Williams.
Wow, the turkey's going to be what gets him right. It's going to be like how they got Capone on mail fraud. It's going to be like, yeah, and that's there's 30 years in jail for the illegal accepting of a turkey.
Right.
Wow, that's transportation of uncooked poultry across
state lines or something,
state
county
lines
lines
or something. Yeah.
But the case really broke when Bentley and Johnson were arrested in Kansas, Missouri, in possession of a shotgun used in the attempted murder of the state liquor control agent. They almost immediately... What? So
how do they know? Like, I mean, because shotguns, you're not really going to find a lot of forensic evidence for rifling or anything like that. How do they know it was used?
I have
in the attempted murder
idea, and I could have looked into it further, but I didn't.
But I did not.
So they almost immediately agreed to cooperate and told agents that they were hired by Valentine on behalf of John Carboni. Valentine, this is like just dominoes, gangster dominoes, because Valentine then turned, admitting to the murder for hire, but also to a string of fire bombings. So he turned into a rat and became a government informant.
Okay.
So on November 28th, 1978, Sheriff Janovich and 14 other men were arrested. Just 3 days later...
They arrested the sheriff.
Yep.
Oh, that had to be a thing.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Just 3 days later, he was in the hospital complaining of heart issues.
Well,
How convenient. Yeah. He was probably a little stressed. Oh, also, I was looking in newspapers.com and reading articles about this, and happened to, on the same page as this article about him being in the hospital complaining of heart issues, and they were thinking about having him take a leave of absence for health conditions, even though he had just gotten arrested, as if that wasn't the reason. I also saw a little news blurb that President Carter had to cancel his entire appointment schedule for the day due to hemorrhoids.
On the same day. Wow. That, why did that need to be in the newspaper? I'd be really irritated if I was Carter. I'd be like,
his ass
really,
is already
guys?
Irritated, and now the whole country knows that he has hemorrhoids.
The entire country's got to know that I had to take a day off because of hemorrhoids.
Because my butt hurt. Oh, poor Carter.
I know. Try a little Preparation H. It's awful good on the whole. So. I mean, geez, that's like...
Isn't that rough? Like, that's insult to injury. Like, You already are
like-
miserable because it hurts to sit. Your butt itches. It hurts
I
to go
got
to
the
the
press
bathroom.
up my ass.
Literally now.
Literally now. Oh.
Did they want a picture of it to put alongside the article? I mean, what do these people need? So as these charges loomed over his head, Sheriff Janovich protested his recall from office, claiming that he was still sheriff. Even though he was indicted on December 8th, he was still trying to fight the recall in January of 1979. The 17-count indictment charging 15 members of the enterprise was for a racketeering conspiracy and numerous other offenses, and was structured on the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organization Act, or RICO. So part of RICO allows the government to seize and forfeit all property and assets used by a criminal organization, which I thought was interesting.
Right. Big deal for gangsters.
Yes. So Seattle's Judge Morrell Sharp ordered the trial to be moved to San Francisco due to all of the local publicity. Before the trial began, 6 of the accused decided to plead guilty and testify as government witnesses. One defendant, Leroy Lusk, could not afford to defend himself in San Francisco, so he was granted a separate trial. The trial lasted 3 months with more than 150 witness testimonies, hundreds of exhibits, and 77 tape recordings between the defendants and undercover agents. Janovich was on the stand for 3 days. After 7 days of deliberating, the jury found 7 of the 8 defendants guilty. The 8th was David Lavage, who was already serving a 20-year sentence for the arson of Top of the Ocean, and he was found not guilty. Sentences ranged from 12 to 25 years. The charges of conspiracy and mail fraud against Leroy Lusk were dismissed, as it was decided there wasn't enough evidence to sustain the conviction. So 1 year later, the owners of the Night Moves Tavern and the owners of the Back 40 Tavern, both of which had been firebombed multiple times, along with that state liquor board agent Melvin Journey, filed lawsuits against Pierce County and several of the defendants, charging a violation of civil rights. So originally, they wanted Pierce County to settle the 3 cases for $400,000. But the county refused, and after several years, they had to settle for $3.7 million.
Oh, geez, dude.
They could have gotten
Wow.
away with $400,000, and
And
instead,
just been out.
and then think of all the legal fees too. After it was like 2 or 3
Exactly.
years, yeah.
That's wild. How many years went past before it went up by that much?
I didn't write it down here, but I want to say it was 2 or 3 years, yeah. So
So that
they could have
whoa,
gotten
that's
off
even more.
400,000, yeah.
Yeah, 400,000, and then all of a sudden it was 3.7 million.
Yeah. Do you remember Ronald Williams, Carboni's chief lieutenant? He's the one who gave the frozen turkey to Sheriff Janovich.
Oh yeah, Turkey Man,
Turkey
Robin, Turkey Man Williams.
Turkey
Wait,
Man
is it
Williams.
Robin Williams?
Ronald.
Oh, Ronald. Whoosh, whoosh. Wow. Okay, got that way wrong. Ronald Turkey Man Williams, not to be confused with Robin.
Right.
Williams.
Well, facing 25 years in federal prison was apparently too much for him, so he also decided to become a rat. His cooperation with the FBI helped to save lives, prevent 2 major jailbreaks, and the murder of a prison guard and 2 inmates who had been government witnesses, and also resulted in multiple arrests. After just 4 years of serving time, the court reduced his sentence to time served, and he was put into the witness protection program. So from 25 years to 4 years, but now he's going to be
Witness
looking
protection.
over his shoulder the rest of his life.
Yeah. I don't know if you know about this about mobs, but they kind of don't mess around.
Yeah, they don't like a rat.
Yeah, they kind of don't like that.
Yeah.
So.
Carbone was released on parole in 1991 and died of dementia and Parkinson's in 98. George Janovich was released on parole at the end of 1986. During his incarceration, he was moved from prison to prison some 30 times and kept segregated from the general population. Because
Were they just afraid that he was going to get whacked?
Yeah, because he was law enforcement. So
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
he died in 2005 because of a ruptured appendix. So this scandal, as you could imagine, rocked Pierce County, and it caused major changes in Pierce County government. The 3-commissioner system was abolished, and a new charter established an elected county executive and 7-member council authorized to appoint the positions of sheriff and county clerk.
That's crazy. It sounds to me like the FBI did a good job in kind of wiping out organized crime in Tacoma, or at least suppressing a lot of it.
Sure. I'm sure that it still exists, and
I'm sure.
I'm sure there was still people running stuff and stuff like that. But I had no idea that it was so entrenched. Yeah,
there is a fairly sizable FBI office in downtown Tacoma.
Oh, is there?
What it's worth.
Oh, cool.
Oh, yes.
You know what else is in downtown Tacoma?
Downtown Tacomans? I don't know.
The Johnson and Cox building, otherwise known
Johnson and Cox.
The Two Dicks Printing Company.
Two Dicks Printing Company. Well, maybe Lavage should have gone looking for a job there.
So, Jason, when you come up to visit, we are going to go on a tour with Pretty Gritty Tours
of dick named buildings.
Dick named buildings.
Various genital named buildings. That
and I'm going
fantastic.
to point out the largest erection in Tacoma. And then
wow.
Tacoma's widest erection as well. Wide, not white. Widest.
I was going to say widest. Those are definitely not the same thing for everybody else out
the
there.
widest erection
Largest
in
and widest, two different things.
Which is
we
the
all
Tacoma
know that's going to
Dome.
happen. So, Tacoma Dome.
But we're going to go on a tour with Pretty Gritty Tours. So Jody and I went on a tour with them last weekend to check out the old Steilacoom State Park, Fort Steilacoom area. And it was a lantern tour. So it was dark.
Ooh.
And Chris...
You had to carry lanterns?
Well, no, we didn't. But Chris, the tour guide, he carried a lantern. And so he took us through this amazing tour of the park. There's a cemetery there. Did you know that there's this huge field that's just... It's cemetery for the Western State Hospital.
Yep.
That was there. And they were all unmarked graves before.
Yep.
So Grave
Super
Concerns
crazy.
has been working on identifying the people who are laid to rest in that field and giving them markers, which
that's good.
I think is really cool.
It is. Yeah, that's one of the kind of dirty little secrets about Steilacoom areas and the Western Washington hospital system is it is really not good, and that's not the only one that's out there.
Yeah. Well, we'll do an episode about it.
So what's the protocol for bringing your own lantern to a lantern tour? I mean, just asking for a friend.
I think he'd be down with it. That's fine.
Cool.
But you also have to wear a cape that has a hood if you're going to do that. Just FYI. That's
sweet.
Yeah.
Pretend we're on some sort of ritual. That sounds fantastic.
Exactly. Well, it kind of felt like that because there was a part where they take you on this path through some kind of sketchy looking woods up to the old hilltop asylum portion.
That part wasn't bad, but the part when they made you stand in a pentagram and chant for 2 hours, that was kind of awkward. It was good for the first 30 minutes, but after that, got a little weird.
I don't know. When we had to figure out which one of the children that were there that we were going to sacrifice, that's when I decided to leave.
Pick the one that smokes.
Exactly. Yeah, that one's not going to live long anyway. So we are going this coming Saturday to tour, get this, Stadium High School.
Yes.
So I am
For those of you who don't
excited.
know out there, just look up Stadium High School in Tacoma. I used to live right down the street from it, about 2 blocks away, and it is spectacular. It is a fantastic thing. And it will be a fantastic podcast to hear anything about Stadium High School. It is terrific, and the history behind it is really intriguing.
It is
as well.
really cool. We'll do a episode about it after the tour, but you guys can all head over to the Pretty Gritty Tours Facebook page, and they've got videos about it there, and they have little clips about Tacoma history, including the one on the Johnson and Cox building, which is one of my favorites, and then also talking about Tacoma's largest erection. And so head over there, take a tour. And for listeners of Rainy Day Rabbit Holes podcast, if you want 10% off a tour, all you got to go is go to our website. There's a little box at the top. You enter in your email, you get a 10% off code. That email is just going to go to us because eventually someday when we get our crap together, we'll do a monthly newsletter. So you're not going to get spammed, at least not for a while, because I have to do that. I need time to spam you, and I just don't have the time right now.
And as we all know, Shea wouldn't even drive 40 minutes north to kidnap somebody. So.
That's true. Yeah. Or extort anybody or threaten anybody. Yeah. At least, I mean, if it was like as long as I could get it done by 2, because I really want to get ahead of the traffic. That's the only way I would go kidnap somebody, is if we could just be back on the road by 2. Thank you very much. So 10 to 2. So does that window work for the kidnapping for you?
10 to 2. You got to give me a little bit. Yeah, I was going to say, that's like somebody delivering something in your house. Well, we'll be there from anywhere from 8 in the morning till Thursday of next week.
Kidnapping
Can you
window.
be there? Yeah.
I just need you to wait at home for me. There's a 4-hour window.
What's really funny is on the other side of Stadium High School, across the Stadium Bowl, is the Washington State Historical Building.
I maybe need to go take a field trip.
Yeah, you do. It's right around the corner. So,
well, guys, I think we're going to let you go. I'm going to let Jason go. Jason, thank you so much for being my guest host today. This was really fun.
Anytime. That is crazy. Can we, what happened to the remnants of the top of the ocean building? Are they just gone?
It's gone. There's still some pilings there, and the city erected a monument. The city likes to erect things. They erected a little monument. So if you're down on the waterfront and walking around, you'll see a solid brass little ocean liner on a plinth at the waterfront. And it has a little plaque that talks about the top of the ocean. But I just thought this was really very interesting. So much more than just a restaurant. So we will also be doing another episode with Michael Sullivan sometime this summer. And we will talk more about the mob influence in Tacoma in Prohibition. We're going to do a booze, bootleggers, and brothels.
That sounds fantastic. Yeah, I've driven on Ruston Way hundreds of times. And there's law offices and a bunch of other stuff hanging out in the water. A good seafood place. The Spar is right up the way. But I've seen those pilings and never ever knew that was an actual restaurant. That is fantastic.
Crazy, huh?
So thank you so much for enlightening me on some Tacoma history that I had no clue about.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see Jason again. This is an audio format. We will hear from Jason again. So he's probably going to come on every month or so and just be a guest host. And maybe, Jace, you want to sometimes regale us with some Southwest history. What do you think?
Maybe we'll have some. I think that's a good idea. Maybe I'll figure out something for us to talk about here, where I'm at currently, which is in Phoenix, Arizona. There's some weird stuff going on here too.
Absolutely, let's do it. All right, guys.
Sounds great.
Please tell a friend about the podcast. Subscribe if you haven't already, and you can always click that little auto download button, and it'll just show up in your feed every time a new episode comes out on Wednesday mornings. So please also rate and review, and you can follow me on social media. And thank you so much. Thank you, Jason.
What's your social media, Shea?
Rainy Day Rabbit Holes on Facebook, Rainy Day Rabbit Holes Pod on Instagram. I'm also on Threads, Rainy Day Rabbit Holes Podcast.
That's a lot of rabbit holes.
There's a lot of rabbit holes here. All right, well, we're going to get out of here. So thank you, Jason. See you down the rabbit hole. Okay, that works.
You wind up so much. You're just like, see you down the rabbit hole. I sent this thing to it was these two baseball players or soccer players, I think, that were like going for the same ball, and they just basically ended up like scissoring each other, just smashing. and the caption was, they scissored so hard that one of them had to go out and buy a Subaru after the game was over.